So, at the beginning of this story, we see a man who was a hunter. He was setting traps with his daughter to catch animals, a kind of snare to ensnare anyone. He was also removing animals that were caught in the old traps. Their dog was also with them. And that man talks to his wife, named Anne, via radio. He tells her to go to town and get some essential supplies. Now, there were 3 people in this family who lived here in the forest, far from the city. Their livelihood was earned by selling animal skins. They used to catch them in their traps, cook and eat the meat, and sell the hides. This was their only means of earning money because, apart from hunting, they didn't know how to do anything else. So, because of this, Anne's husband was also teaching his daughter this trade, but she wasn't very skilled at it yet. Just as the father and daughter were checking the traps, they see that an animal is missing from their trap. Seeing this, his daughter says, "This must be his doing. He's back." She was talking about the wolf here, which makes us understand that this wasn't the first time. This had been happening before. Meanwhile, Anne goes to a store to sell the animal skins. She looked quite troubled there because, due to the falling price of hides, she neither gets proper money nor enough supplies for food. The shop owner, seeing her trouble, says, "This is all common animal hides are worth. If you want more money, you'll have to bring a wolf skin." But Anne was still worried, thinking, "Where will I get a wolf skin from?" She was also looking longingly at some posters there for a house for rent and a good job. From her expression, it seemed she wanted to rent that house and get a good job too. But for some reason, she couldn't. She doesn't like hunting either. She also wishes they could live in town instead of the forest, and that she could send her daughter to a good school. But since they didn't have that much money, she returns home. At home, Anne's husband is teaching their daughter how to skin an animal, while Anne is cooking food for everyone. Even during dinner, everyone's mood was sour because, due to the lack of money, there wasn't proper food. And when Anne's daughter mentions that a wolf took their hunt, hearing this, Anne gets very angry with her husband because he hadn't told her about this. She says to her husband, "We have to do something about this wolf, or we'll starve to death." Then, sending her daughter inside, Anne starts arguing with her husband again. Her husband says, "Wolves prefer to eat girls for fun, so he must have come here after some girl or some animal." But Anne says, "In my opinion, he's here because of us, because of our family. He knows he'll find easy, trapped prey here and won't have to work hard." Further, she says, "I want to go to the police station and report it." But her husband refuses, saying, "No, don't worry. I'll catch him myself tomorrow morning." But this wasn't the only worry. Anne shows him the same ad poster and says, "How long can we go on like this? I'll do this, I'll get a job in a good place, earn money, and then we'll have a good life." But her husband refuses, saying, "We can't do anything besides hunting. We don't know how to do anything else." After this, they both go outside, where Anne tries to make her husband understand, "Look, you're not thinking about your daughter. You chose this life, I chose it because of you." But our daughter wasn't given a choice. Let her do what she wants to do. Right now, she should be worried about her studies, not about animals and wolves, and what kind of sensible person lives here in the forest anyway. But even after explaining, her husband doesn't understand. He says, "We live here, don't we? Our future generations will live here too." Meaning no matter what, they wouldn't leave this forest. Then, the next morning, when he was going to hunt the wolf, he takes his daughter along at her insistence, which Anne doesn't like at all. Because of this, she talks to her husband via radio. He says, "As soon as I get a sense of the wolf, when it's time to hunt, I'll send her back." Which happens very soon because he had seen the wolf's paw prints. He had understood that it must be nearby. So, explaining everything, he sends his daughter back, also saying, "I myself will be back by night." After that, his daughter starts heading back. Although her dad had said not to be afraid or panic, the forest was making such dangerous sounds that she became terrified. Meanwhile, Anne was in the same state. While fetching water from the river, when she was returning, She felt like someone was following her, so she was also scared. And exactly the same thing was happening to her daughter. After that, Anne somehow manages to get home, but her daughter couldn't. She sat down there, frightened. Anne's husband also spots the wolf, so he immediately shoots at it. But it didn't look like it had been killed. His daughter also heard the gunshot, so she mustered up courage and moved forward. After shooting, when Anne's husband goes to check, he sees the wolf isn't there, which meant it had run away. But there he sees something that shocks him. A girl's severed hand that the wolf was eating. Now, crossing the road to the other side of the forest, he moves forward, and the sight there leaves him utterly stunned. He was quite panicked because there were mutilated corpses of girls placed in a cruel, circular pattern, which obviously couldn't be the work of a wolf. So he realizes that besides the wolf, a killer is also roaming the forest who is doing all this, killing girls like this and dumping them. Seeing this, he was completely panicked, thinking his family was also in danger because there were 2 women in his house too. He could handle the wolf, but dealing with this dangerous killer wouldn't be easy. Coming home, he sat quietly, thinking about this. His sleep and appetite were gone. At home, he didn't tell anything so his family wouldn't get scared, and now he would do something himself to protect his family. The next day, when Anne wakes up, her husband is missing because he had gone back to the same place where he had seen the girls' bodies. He had actually told Anne that he was going to find the wolf, saying, "If I have to stay out all night, I will. Don't worry about me." But in reality, he was looking for the killer, not the wolf. When Anne and her daughter were by the river, her daughter notices her dog isn't there, so she goes to look for it. But then the same wolf appears in front of her and starts moving towards them. Seeing it, Anne starts screaming loudly because that was the first idea that came to her mind, and her idea works because the wolf ran away. And now, both mother and daughter, without wasting any time, immediately rush back to their house. But since their dog was still outside, Anne takes a gun and goes to look for it. There she finds the dog, but it's dead because the wolf had finished it off. Its death saddens Anne greatly. She returns and lies to her daughter, saying, "I haven't found the dog yet. When your dad comes back, we'll find him." She didn't tell her daughter about the dog's death so she wouldn't get scared or feel her life was in danger. So now, here we are told why this movie is called Hunter x Hunter, because actually, this hunter family is caught between 2 hunters, both of whom pose a threat to their lives. One is the wolf and the other is that killer. Anyway, morning comes again, but Anne's husband neither returns nor calls. Both mother and daughter go to check their traps again, where today too, one of their hunts was missing. There, Anne finds a ring, which makes her tremble, because it must belong to that girl the wolf ate. So she goes straight to the police station to report the wolf, so it can be caught. Meanwhile, the police officer boss and his team were returning to the station with a girl's body when they see an empty car on the way. At first, they look at it carefully, but not paying much attention, they go to the police station where Anne is already present. Anne tells them everything, to which they say, "Nothing can be done because your area doesn't come under our jurisdiction. Also, we can't catch the wolf because it hasn't done anything wrong. It's not a human, it's an animal. It has no understanding. It's just doing what it's always done. You live in the forest, you hunt, so 100% of the fault is yours, not the wolf's. So if any action is taken, it will be against you people, not the wolf." Now, since no help was forthcoming, Anne has to return home with a little food. Then she buries her dog, kills a fawn, and brings it home with her. It was wrong, but they had to do something for food. There was no sign of her husband. The wolf was a constant threat. The food was running out. So now, Anne had to do whatever was necessary. Anne, together with her daughter, skins the deer. After that, the 2 of them cook and start eating it. Yes. Just then, suddenly there's some activity on the radio. Anne speaks, but no clear voice comes from the other end. Then at night, when both mother and daughter were sleeping, suddenly their eyes open because screams were coming from the forest. When they go to check, we see it's not Anne's husband, but some unknown man who is quite injured and asking for help. Then Anne leaves her daughter back at the house, lays the man on a sled and brings him to her house because the wolf could be nearby. Checking him, a radio falls out of the man's pocket. Also, the condition of his leg was very bad. Now the night passes like this. The next morning, when Anne's daughter comes near him, his eyes suddenly open, which scares her greatly. She immediately calls her mom. At his request, Anne gives him water and also stitches the wound on his leg. Seeing this, Anne's daughter feels strange, so she tells her mom. Dad said never to trust a stranger. Hearing this, Anne says, "Look at his condition, how injured he is. And if your dad were here, he would definitely help him too." Meanwhile, the boss is coming back to the police station and sees that car still parked there. He realizes it's been parked there for the last 2 days. He gets out of his car and starts looking around, and when he doesn't see anyone, he notes down the car's number. Then the young man wakes up and tells his name. "My name is Lo." Anne asks him, "Not many people come to this forest, so what were you doing here?" Lou explains, "That's my specialty, actually. I came to take pictures of this forest. But my car broke down on the way, so I proceeded into the forest on foot, where someone attacked me, probably a wolf, because I didn't see it. And that car that's been parked for so many days, it's mine." Now his condition was so bad that he needed to be taken to the hospital. But with the wolf around, they couldn't go because if the wolf was there, they wouldn't be able to escape. Anyway, still, Anne, with her daughter's help, tries to take him to the car, but on the way, Lou starts screaming in pain, so they have to return home again. Both mother and daughter now thrown poisoned meat pieces there, set plain traps, and also lit a fire to protect themselves from that wolf. Meanwhile, the boss was deep in thought because people had been disappearing continuously for quite some time, especially girls, a series that was still ongoing. Although he only had an hour left until his duty ended, he still goes to check that car, which was his biggest mistake. He was following the tracks and moving forward when his foot gets caught in a trap. As he tries to free it a little, his hand also gets caught. So obviously he was now stuck here and couldn't go anywhere. And these traps must have been laid by Anne to catch the killer, but this poor guy got caught in them. Meanwhile, Anne, gun in hand, was standing alert. But even after the whole night passed, neither her husband returned nor did the wolf appear. At the police station, when an officer arrives, she listens to a voice message from his wife saying the boss hadn't come home last night. Now this officer tries to contact him via radio, but he doesn't answer. So now she also sets out to find him. Meanwhile, Anne also started getting worried about her husband, so she takes a map and sets out to find him. She finds a rabbit caught in a trap. Reluctantly, she has to kill it. Doing this makes her very sad because this wasn't her job. Just then, there's activity on the radio again. So she starts moving forward again, where she is utterly shocked because there lies her husband's corpse. Seeing him dead like that, she is completely shattered and starts crying bitterly. And only now does she understand the whole thing. Her husband wasn't killed by the wolf, he was killed by Lou. Because he is the killer who killed the other girls too. Anne's husband had caught him, but Lou killed him and ran away, although her husband had injured Lou badly. But Anne had brought him back to her house and saved his life. This was no less than a shock for Anne because she was serving the man who was her husband's killer. She had been unaware of this fact until now. As soon as she realizes this, she immediately heads back home because she had made another mistake. She had left her daughter alone with Lou. Meanwhile, the officer also arrives at that place and starts looking for the boss. When he feels someone is there, he fires 2 or 3 shots from his gun. which quickly leads the officer to him. Seeing him trapped like that, she immediately calls for help. Anne enters the house very carefully. She sees her daughter is absolutely fine and sleeping soundly. But the killer wasn't there because he was hiding behind the door. Immediately, he attacks Anne. In the struggle, a shot is fired from Anne's gun, the sound of which wakes her daughter. She comes here to look, but it's no use because by then, Lou had knocked Anne unconscious. In the forest, the police had also arrived. But before they could free the boss from the trap, the boss breathes his last. Now the officers follow his tracks and advance into the forest. When Anne regains consciousness, Lou demands the truck keys. She says, on one condition. First, tell me where my daughter is. He doesn't answer that, but says, this would never have happened if your husband had minded his own business and not interfered. To hide his secret, he first killed your husband, and now I will kill you too. After that, he burns all his belongings, comes to Anne, and starts misbehaving with her. But Anne seizes an opportunity, traps his face in a snare, and later frees herself and attacks him with an object, knocking him unconscious. Now, going into the next room, Anne sees something and starts crying bitterly because her daughter's corpse was lying there. It's not shown to us, which meant that Mad Killer, who was an animal in human form, hadn't spared her daughter either. So she resolves, now I won't spare him either. I will take revenge for my husband and daughter. She hangs the fawn's hide with a rope, puts on headphones, and starts listening to music. After doing that, she starts skinning Lou just like an animal, because he was no less than an animal. Within a short while, she skins his entire body and finally his face too, causing a lot of blood to flow. He also looked very gruesome. In the meantime, the police had also arrived outside. But by then, Anne had done her work. She brings his hide out with her and throws it at the police officers, who are shocked seeing it. The police go inside to check, where Lou is still alive, but his condition is very bad, so he was only going to live a little longer. Seeing him would shake anyone's heart. He looked so horrifically ugly. Listening to the music, Anne sits down in a spot, and remembering her family, she stops the music. And with this, the film ends right here.